on the importance of face-to-face contact in the church. We can come up with these ideas kind of in isolation, but it's in those moments of contact with people from all around the world that the body of Christ is really made real.
I was surprised that the Episcopal Church seems to work more efficiently than the WCC. I didn't think that anything worked less efficiently than the Episcopal Church, but the WCC does. So that makes me feel proud of us in the Episcopal Church and the Executive Council.
Well, I thought it would be a little bit more radical than it is. I haven't felt that there's been a lot of extremely progressive thought and action here, probably. So it's not over yet, but so far it's been kind of not conservative, but not radically progressive either.
The World Council of Churches and its constituent members were prominent and wonderfully committed parts of that community. You were marvelous in the support you gave to us. You established the program to combat racism, which, yes, was controversial, but was quite critical in saying our cause was just and noble, and that those who, as a last resort, had opted for the armed struggle were not terrorists, but freedom fighters.
Anything in particular that you've learned?
How globalization even has impacted the South in the most negative way.
Particularmente creo que fueron las reuniones sobre la relectura de la Biblia en América Latina, la relectura de la Biblia en medio de pueblos marginados, pueblos con hambre, pueblos desplazados, pueblos sufrientes. Esto fue una experiencia maravillosa y la lectura de una teología nueva.
Unlike the days in which we worked on things like baptism, Eucharist, and ministry, or days when we were focused on South Africa and the apartheid situation, there isn't quite so clear a focus at this assembly.
I've learned that the ecumenical commitment is very, very political. It's not just a bunch of people holding hands and saying, let's be communion.
I've learned that to be in dialogue with people from other traditions, other countries, different worldviews requires so much sensitivity, so much patience, and so much love.
Well, one surprise, I guess, is that I thought there would be a lot more dialogue. A lot of the conversations have seemed quite like people on a stage talking to us.
I was excited to see Desmond Tutu here. He had an amazing speech, to meet Rowan Williams.
Once again, for me, maybe it's not learned for the first time, but relearned. You have to keep relearning the importance of seeing beyond the labels.
We have failed to embody the covenant of life to which our God calls us. Hurricane Katrina revealed to the world those left behind in our own nation by the rupture of our social contract. As a nation, we have refused to confront the racism that exists in our own communities and the racism that infects our policies around the world.
How do we as Christians answer the challenge to identify ourselves? We carry the name of Christ, and every time we say Christian, we take for granted a story and a place in history. The story and place of those people with whom God made an alliance in the distant past. The people whom God called so that in their life together, God might show his glory.
The surprise for me has been the terrible controversy that has run for a few days, maybe about to be resolved, on the level of youth participation in the Central Committee and in the future life of the WCC. I thought they had that sorted out well and truly before this assembly, and then bingo, we got ourselves into deep water very sadly and unfortunately.
Okay.
given me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But I said, thank you. My grace is sufficient for you.
Pleasantly surprised by the ecumenical conversation on human sexuality, how well attended it was, and the level and the diversity of sharing in our groups with people from all over the world, and many denominations who have many taboos about talking about this subject.
Well, like many of these gatherings, for me the highlight is often in around the edges. In the Bible studies, I've really enjoyed our Bible study. I like the diversity of the worship and experiencing that. The plenary sessions are less important to me in some ways than the kind of interaction that we have. I wish we had more time to do some of the real ecumenical conversations, and there's a sense in which only the Bible study groups and the ecumenical conversations really give those of us who are delegates a time to really engage ecumenically. Otherwise,
the only surprise I received from the assembly, the absence of action on the Middle East in general.
A few days ago, at a meeting, the question was put to me, well, why do we bother with the Anglican Communion? I think the agenda behind that question was, we are so confused sometimes about our institutions and structures. Kenneth will clear up the confusion in a few minutes. We are so divided, and likely to be more divided on issues like sexuality. And we are not a tidy and organised body in the way that sometimes we like to think other churches are. I choose my words carefully.
I'd like to address my question to the Archbishop. First, I'd like to say thank you. I found your prayerful and balanced leadership over the past several years to be personally very enlightening, and I don't know that you hear thank you enough, so I want to say thank you. And that said, Ian Douglas, who's a theologian, and well, I don't need to tell you that, but Ian Douglas has characterized a trend of what he calls a new curialization within the Anglican Communion, and a lot of people read the Windsor Report as part of that curialization. And I'd like to ask you, as the Archbishop of Canterbury, as the occupant of a seat that's, if it's being curialized and if you're being put up as a new pope.
Un resumen de lo que se habló hoy pudiera ser presentado en español y en francés.
The highlight of the assembly was the visit by Rowan Williams because of the way he challenged the whole assembly, and from what we've been hearing, he was most appreciated by everyone here, and so I think that was really the best part for me.